Many times in life, my friends, we want to do things in our own strength. We want to do things the way the world has taught us to do things. We want to be in charge. We want to take charge. We want to be the, in quotations, authors of our own destiny. You see, this is what is ingrained in people, that you gotta do it. You gotta take control. You gotta take the situation head on. You've got to. You see, my friends, there was a man called Abraham. Everybody knows the story of Abraham and what God promised Abraham. What people really don't understand, because they don't really think about this, they don't take it to heart, is what Abraham went through in order to hold on to what God said. You see, God told him that he would make him the father of many nations. God promised him a son, see. And many things came in Abraham's way, including his own wife, you see, who told him and gave him advice, which he heeded to have a child in his own strength, you see, by going into and being with one of her Agar, you see. And what people don't understand is that this is what most people do. They try and do things in their own strength. They try and make things happen, and then say, well, you know, God wanted me to do this, you see, and justify it and say, well, I'm doing it, you know, in my own way, you see. For God, we think that God can't get things done because we never learned how to trust in Him. We never learned how to wait on Him, how to be patient, how to endure, how to have long suffering, you see, how to remember Him, how to hold on to His word, you see. And this is the thing, my friends, you see, even in my own life, I've done things in my own strength that were not part of what God wanted me to do, you see. Because we tend to see with our physical eyes, you see. If trouble is coming, many people I know, if trouble is coming, they don't close their eyes and focus on Jesus and wait on Him. You see, they try and react in their own strength because they never learned how to trust in Jesus. You see, they try and do something, you see, and they don't realize that what they're doing is not doing what God wants. You see. So these are the things, my friends. God's wisdom is eternal. You see, eternity, everything will bow down to eternity. Eternity doesn't bow down to that which is temporary. You see. and that's why when you listen to many advisors and many people who give you nice advice, they tell you, well, go do this, you need to do that, make sure that, you know, you have another job before you quit this job, make sure this and make sure that. They're giving you all this conventional advice, using conventional wisdom that is part of the world, you see. They tell you, you need to do this, you need to do that. And many times it's very tempting because, hey, it makes sense, you see. It makes sense. The problem is that sense is nonsense with God, you see. And I say that because I've done that before, and sometimes I'm tempted to still do it and act in my own strength, you see. I know many people that give me advice. You see, they're looking out for me, in quotations. You see, you need to do this, do that, do this, do that. And you gotta be still and know who's God. You see, you gotta be still. You gotta learn how to be still and be calm, be patient and wait on God, because He does things in His own way, in His own time. You see, and it's us who have to submit to Him and His timing. You see, we want to see, because we live once. You see, we think that this is all we have, and many Christians, they say, oh well, there's afterlife, but they don't live for the afterlife. They live for now. You see, they live for the world. That's why they're never able to wait on God. They go around, they start a ministry, they do this, they do that, thinking this is all God, you know. But it was never ordained by God. It was never instituted by Him. It was never approved by Him. You see, everybody did all these things because man approved it, which is approved by the world, because that's the way the world does things, because it's in quotations free from God. It does things on its own, and then it tries to say, well, yeah, using Bible verses and all these other things give you a justification for what you've done. Many people get ordained in a seminary. They get ordained here and ordained there, and they go to this church and that church, and they give them all these placards and certificates saying you're apostle so and so, or evangelist so and so. But unfortunately, my friends, we have to be ordained by the Spirit of God before we can do anything, which has got nothing to do with all these certificates and accolades and all these other kind of things. Because when you ordained by God, all those things are foolishness. You see, John the Baptist was ordained by God. Look where he was. Look what he did. Look what he looked like. Look how he spoke. You see, many of these people, they were not ordained in your conventional wisdom. You see, they didn't speak with the sophistication and suave of worldly knowledge. You see? But yet many people today, they think that this is what God wants, and I want this. And I met one girl one time who told me, this is in university, and I just listening to the story. She told me that God had told her to be with a handicapped guy in a wheelchair. And, so God put them together, and then she wanted to come to the university, and he wanted to go to a different university. So she told me that the other guy didn't want to do God's will, and so they broke. I guess they were engaged, and they broke up because she wanted to do what, in quotations, God wanted her to do. But she told me God put them together. You see, so what's going on here is that people are doing their own things and then sticking along a label for people. God told me. See, in that Christian university, everything was God told me. God told me this. God told me that. God told me to get married to you. You see, God told me this and God told me. And at the end of it, it had nothing to do with God. These people, you see, they're just doing things in their own strength, not waiting on God, not praying, not seeking Him, not being immovable, not being patient. You see, this is all talk, and it's all your own plans. And then when lies come about, it's not God who's the liar, it's man who's the liar. You see, we're doing things because we want to do them, because we want to take charge, we want to be in control of our own destiny, and then stick bumper stickers on the outside. You see, now this is not right, my friends. See, if you're truly following God's plan, it moves according to His ways. Wisdom is slow moving. When you see the sun rise, you don't push a button and then it rises up. You see? When the moon rises, you don't push another button, then it rises up when you push the button. No, it doesn't happen like that. You see? This is just symbolic, I'm saying. You see? So if that's what happens with the sun and the moon, then what more the one who created the sun and the moon? You see? What more the one who created the stars and the mountains and the oceans? You see, we can't push buttons and then He starts, jumping up around. It's not like that. That's a deception. You see, from the world, because the world has learned to manipulate many things, like speed. You see, you push this button, then that comes up. You push, and then they never tell you the price for that, where it's coming from, how it's being made done, what kind of manipulation is going on. You see, when you turn a chicken into egg, when you turn an egg into a chicken in just a matter of days, what chemicals were put in there? See, what kind of steroids were injected into that thing to accelerate the growth? You see, why? What's the side effects of all these kind of things? There's a price for this kind of manipulation, and that's why, my friends, you have to wait for things to be done naturally, and as a spiritual person, you have to wait things to be done by God, for them to be done correctly. You see, we've got to learn to wait and not start doing things, listening to other people and doing things wrongly. But we got to learn to wait on God.